Little Mouse lived in her own pretty house under the earth. She had a sweet-smelling bed made of pine wood and honeysuckle vines, a small braided rug, and a painting made by her grandmother, which hung on the wall over her cupboard. Every morning, Little Mouse woke up, ate her breakfast of berries and nuts, made her bed, and went up the steps to visit her friends. Squirrel, Bear, and Porcupine were Little Mouse's friends. Some days, Little Mouse went to pick berries with Bear. "Ho, ho," Bear would say when he found a particularly fine patch of berries. "Oh," he would sigh as he happily ate them. Some days, Little Mouse was invited to Squirrel's treehouse, where they had tea, crackers, and flowers. Squirrel loved flowers. Sometimes Squirrel would arrange flowers carefully in little acorn cups, and other times he ate them. Some days, Little Mouse was invited on long walks with Porcupine. Porcupine never walked in a straight line, but wandered from one side of the path to the other. She would often stop and look at something closely and say, "Just look at that stone. Just look at that stone." Or, "Look at that cloud. Just look at that cloud." And then Little Mouse would also pause and look carefully at that stone, or stare quietly at that cloud. One evening, even though Little Mouse loved being with her friends, she decided she wanted to do something all by herself. Do you know what Little Mouse wanted to do? She decided to make a painting. So the next morning, she got up and she went outside and she set up her grandmother's easel near a blueberry bush, and she began to paint. The sun shone on her. Little Mouse made long, thin lines. She made short, thick lines. She painted all morning, singing as she worked, and stopped only from time to time for a snack of berries and nuts. By afternoon, the painting was finished. As she was looking at it, she heard thump, thump, thump. It was Bear. Little Mouse ran and hid behind a tree. "Ho, ho," said Bear. "That is a beautiful painting." A bear must have made that painting. "No," said Little Mouse, coming out from behind the tree. "I did." "You did?" "Yes, I did." "Well, I like the bear in the middle." That's not a bear, it's a blueberry bush." "That's a bear." That's a blueberry bush." Where?" called Squirrel from his tree. Squirrel looked from Bear to the painting. "What bear? What berry? That's a squirrel." "A squirrel? Where?" called Bear and Little Mouse together. Squirrel scampered down and pointed to the painting. "Right there." "No," said Little Mouse, "that's a daisy." "That's a squirrel," said Squirrel. "Stop," said Bear. "Let us go see Porcupine. She will know what to do." Bear thumped along, carrying the easel. Squirrel ran ahead with the paintbrushes. Little Mouse was the slowest because she was carrying the painting. When they came to Porcupine's house, Bear called out, "Porcupine, please come out. We have something very important to show you." Porcupine came out of her house, and she saw Bear, Squirrel, and Little Mouse all staring at a painting they had placed under an elm tree. Porcupine also stared at the painting. "Look at that, Porcupine. Just look at that, Porcupine," said Porcupine. "What?" said Bear. It's a bear. It's a squirrel, said Squirrel. And Little Mouse said, no. But no one was paying any attention to her. Would you like to know what I think? Little Mouse asked the elm tree. Yes? Good. Well, at the top is the sun. In the middle is a blueberry bush. And at the bottom is a flower with a leaf. I know. How do I know? Because I painted it. I think I'll take a closer look, said Porcupine. And Porcupine went up close to the painting. Look, she said. Squirrel scampered up to the painting. A flower and a leaf, how yummy, said Squirrel. Bear came up close to the painting. A blueberry bush. From up close, I see the blueberry bush. And I see the sun's rays, said Porcupine. You know, Bear, the blueberry bush looks a lot like you. I know, said Bear, very pleased. It's a beautiful painting, said Porcupine. Leave it here for us to look at. Little Mouse left the painting on the easel all day, but when the stars came out, she rolled it up and put it under her arm and went home. She hung the painting on the wall opposite her bed. She sat on her bed and looked at the painting. She walked around the room and looked at the painting from many different places. She sat on her braided rug. She hopped up on her cupboard. She sat on her bed again. Bear is right, she said. From far away, when I sit on my bed, the blueberry bush looks like Bear. But when I'm very close to the painting, the blueberry bush looks like a blueberry bush. Little Mouse drank a glass of water. She tucked herself into bed. She looked at the painting. Good night, Bear. Good night, Porcupine. Good night, Squirrel. I'm glad you're all in my painting. And she fell asleep. And she began to dream. And in her dream, she saw clouds and stones and trees and flowers. And they all looked like Bear and Porcupine and Squirrel and Little Mouse and all of you. Thank you.